Welcome back, and here we are to continue our special edition and our coverage of commemorating the 30th of June Revolution 12th anniversary, to shed more light on this day, which is really considered as a turning point in Egypt's modern history. We are very much delighted to have with us via phone Dr. Ayman Salah Mourad, Professor of International Law and member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Nermeen. Good morning.
Sir, let's start with the main reasons. Of course, there were a lot of reasons and a lot of factors behind the 30th of June revolution. But let's, before going into more details, tackle the most important and eminent ones.
Actually, it has been now 12 years since the Egyptians uprising against the Muslim Brotherhood. And actually, that uprising was an uprising against theocracy, fascism, totalitarianism. And it was, the most important of which is, it was an uprising against the attempt to change the Egyptian entity, because the Egyptian entity is a very unique entity. It's a blend of African, Asian, Mediterranean, Greek, Roman, Muslim, Pharaonic, Christian components that has lived for thousands of years along the River Nile in an atmosphere of tolerance and acceptance of other and diversity. So actually, I see this uprising as an uprising mainly against the evil attempt to change the Egyptian entity.
Absolutely, Dr. Ayman. Let me ask you, sir, now after this revolution straight away, there were major, internal challenges in Egypt at the time. Could you tell us a bit about some of the efforts at the time that the government did after the revolution in order to stabilize the situation and face these challenges head on?
Actually, after this uprising and after the armed forces headed at that time by Minister of Defense, Field Marshal Abdel Fattah Sisi at that time, aligned with the will of the people and the demands of the people, there have been, of course, some, let's say, challenges that faced the Egyptian state, mainly the international challenges and relations, because some of the states haven't been fully or haven't fully understand the situation in Egypt at that time, and that it was the will and the demands of the people. So at the beginning, the Egyptian state tried to make a lot of diplomatic efforts to explain and to determine to the international world and international society the situation on the ground, and it was fruitful because a lot of countries began to understand. Even President Obama called President Abdel Fattah Sisi, and he congratulated him for inauguration for the presidency. So the states lately began to understand the situation and that it was the will and the demand of the people.
Yes.
And sir, to continue that, there were a lot of other challenges on the other side of the coin, I mean our foreign affairs. And in my humble opinion, the 30th of June revolution took Egypt to another era of diplomatic balance. Now our foreign affairs are based on mutual respect and a win-win situation between Egypt and all the states all over the world. If you want to elaborate on that.
Definitely, after the 30th June revolution, the Egyptian state was keen to try to reposition itself among the regional and international society through maintaining balanced relations with all powers in the world, with the U.S., with China. We have seen the comprehensive strategic partnership with China. We have seen the comprehensive strategic partner with Russia, even with the United States. The relations between Egypt and the United States have always been strategic. More than decades, the relations began, diplomatic relations began in 1922, and there has been strategic partnerships, even though sometimes there might be differences different perspectives on some issues, but this does not, of course, affect or change the nature of the strategic relations between Egypt and the U.S. and the world powers. Besides, of course, it's neighboring Arab countries and African countries.
Absolutely. Dr. Ayman, speaking about African countries, after the revolution, with the new political will and political leadership, Egypt embarked on regaining its leading role in the African continent and furthering diplomatic efforts and regaining contacts with African countries and even chairing afterwards the African Union. Tell us a bit about how African-Egyptian ties have really flourished under President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's leadership.
Definitely. After the June 30th revolution, and we said that some of the states has not been very aware of the situation on the ground, and that it was the will of the Egyptian people, the African Union suspended the membership of Egypt at that time. And then later, 1 year later, after President Fattah el-Sisi came into office, with some diplomatic efforts, the African Union regained again and resustained again the full membership of Egypt, and even Egypt was appointed as the head of the African Union later, and Egypt was appointed also as the head of a lot of important committees. So now Egypt is the heart of Africa, and Africa without Egypt is not Africa. So they understood the situation, and as we said, even Egypt became the head of the African Union 3 years later or 4 years later.
Indeed. In fact, sir, Egypt is an African, Arab, Islamic, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern country, and it's a key country when it comes to all these regions. And as you've kindly mentioned, we assumed the presidency of the African Union in 2019, and in the same time, Egypt was always and is always going to continue to play a pivotal role in achieving stability and security in the Middle East. How do you see, in general, the Egyptian role in exerting the utmost efforts to achieve peace and security in the Middle East, and to interfere when it's a must, particularly with our allies, whether from the Arab, Islamic, or African countries?
Actually, I need to say something which is very important, and I see this as the biggest achievement of the June 30th revolution. If you look on the map, you'll find that on the southern border of Egypt there is a conflict. On the western border there is a conflict. On the eastern border there is a conflict, whether Gaza or Syria or lately Iran. The only part on the map that is safe and secure is Egypt, and this is very important. And this doesn't come from nowhere. It came from efforts. It came from the acknowledgement of the importance of security. And as we have seen, Egypt have always, concerning the conflicts, in the regional conflicts, whether in the Arab or the African country, Egypt formal situation has been very clear. Egypt does not intervene in the internal affairs of the country, but it is committed to the security and the integrity and the unity of this country, and it always have called for the support for the constitutional and legitimate institutions inside these countries and these states. And we have seen, as always, Egypt has been following a balanced policy through its region, and which helped out. And as we have seen, in Sudan, Egypt has received a lot of our Sudanese brothers who fled the war. Egypt has sent medical aid also in the western borders. Also, Egypt has sent medical aid and has received a lot of people who fled the war, and and in Syria the same. So Egypt pivotal role is the balance of the region.
Absolutely. On that note, I'd like to thank you very, very much, our guest, Dr. Ayman Salah Mourad, Professor of International Law and member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Always a pleasure to have you with us, and thank you very much for being with us on Now TV International.
And now it's time to take a quick look at the efforts exerted by the state throughout a decade to boost our industrial sector. Our industrial sector is developed, and it really witnessed a leap, as boosting our industrial sector was, and I think it's going to be for the coming period of time, as one of the state's priorities through innovation, qualifying Egyptian youth, encouraging the private sector, the new startups, new businesses, invading new fields, all this and more. So let's have more details.